Welcome to our video on the fascinating history of Egypt, mummies, and the mummification process. For thousands of years, Egypt has captivated people with its rich culture, stunning architecture, and mysterious rituals. One of the most intriguing aspects of ancient Egypt is its practice of mummification. In this video, we'll explore the history of Egypt, the role of mummies in Egyptian society, and the intricate process of mummification. Egypt is an ancient civilization that dates back to around 3000 BCE, making it one of the oldest in the world. It is located in northeast Africa, and its borders are defined by the Mediterranean Sea to the north and the Red Sea to the east. Over the centuries, Egypt developed a complex system of government, religion, and culture that left a significant impact on human history. One of the most important aspects of ancient Egyptian society was the pharaohs, who were the rulers of Egypt and were seen as divine beings who held great power over the people. They built massive temples and pyramids to honor the gods and preserve their legacy. These structures were often adorned with intricate hieroglyphics and other art that provided insight into the beliefs and values of ancient Egyptians. Despite facing periods of decline and foreign invasion, Egypt remained a center of learning, art, and trade for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians made significant contributions to fields such as mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and architecture. They also developed a sophisticated system of writing known as hieroglyphics, which allowed them to record their history and preserve their culture for future generations. Overall, the history of Egypt is a fascinating and complex topic that encompasses thousands of years of human civilization. From the pharaohs and their magnificent structures to the advancements in science and culture, Egypt has played a significant role in shaping the world as we know it today. The role of mummies in ancient Egyptian society was significant and tied closely to the belief in the afterlife. For the Egyptians, death was seen as a continuation of life, and they believed that the soul would continue to exist in the afterlife. To ensure that the soul had a comfortable and safe journey, they developed the practice of mummification. Mummification was a complex and time-consuming process that involved removing the internal organs and drying out the body using a mixture of salts and other substances. The body was then wrapped in linen bandages and often placed in a coffin or sarcophagus. The process was expensive and only available to those who could afford it, such as royalty and the wealthy. Mummies were considered to be sacred and powerful objects, and their preservation was crucial to ensuring the soul's successful journey into the afterlife. They were often buried with offerings of food, clothing, and other items that the soul might need in the afterlife. Mummies were also believed to have protective powers and were sometimes used in religious rituals. For example, they could be placed in temples or carried in processions to help protect the community from harm. Some mummies even had special amulets placed on them to enhance their protective powers. In conclusion, mummies played a significant role in ancient Egyptian society, and the practice of mummification was tied closely to the belief in the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the preservation of the body was essential to ensuring the soul's successful journey into the afterlife and that mummies had protective powers that could aid in religious rituals and protect the community. The mummification process was a central aspect of ancient Egyptian religion and culture. The Egyptians believed that in order for the soul to live on after death, the body had to be preserved through mummification. The process was complex and involved several steps. The first step in the mummification process was the removal of the organs. The brain was removed through the nose using a hooked instrument, and the internal organs were removed and preserved separately. The heart was left in the body, as it was believed to be the seat of the soul and would be needed in the afterlife. The next step was drying the body. The body was covered in natron, a type of salt that helped dry it out and prevent decay. The natron was left on the body for up to 40 days, depending on the size of the body. During this time, the body was turned over regularly to ensure that it was drying evenly. After the body had been dried out, it was wrapped in linen bandages. The bandages were often soaked in resin to help them stick together and create a more secure wrapping. Amulets and charms were placed in between the layers of bandages to protect the body and aid the soul in the afterlife. Finally, the mummy was placed in a coffin or sarcophagus, which was often adorned with hieroglyphics and images of the deceased. The sarcophagus was often placed in a tomb, along with food, clothing, and other objects for the deceased to use in the afterlife. The mummification process was a lengthy and expensive process, reserved for the wealthy and elite members of society. It was seen as a way to ensure that the soul of the deceased would live on in the afterlife, and the mummies themselves were believed to have protective powers and were often used in religious rituals. The practice of mummification continued for thousands of years in ancient Egypt and remains a fascination to this day. The importance of the mummification process in ancient Egyptian culture cannot be overstated. The belief in the afterlife was central to their religion, and the preservation of the body was seen as a way to ensure that the soul could continue to exist in the afterlife. It was believed that if the body decayed, the soul would not recognize it and would be lost forever. The process of mummification was therefore developed as a way of preserving the body, so that the soul could continue to use it in the afterlife. It was a complex and time-consuming process that involved removing the organs from the body, drying it out with natron, wrapping it in linen bandages, and placing it in a sarcophagus. The process was carried out by specialized priests, known as embalmers, who had been trained in the art of mummification. They had to be highly skilled and knowledgeable about anatomy, as well as the rituals and beliefs surrounding death and the afterlife. In addition to preserving the body, the mummification process also played an important role in religious rituals. Mummies were believed to have protective powers and could be used in rituals to invoke the gods and ensure their favor. They were also often placed in temples or other sacred spaces as a way of honoring the deceased and maintaining a connection between the living and the dead. Overall, the mummification process was a crucial part of ancient Egyptian culture and played an essential role in their belief system. It allowed them to maintain a connection with their ancestors and their gods, and the practice continued to be used for thousands of years, even after the decline of ancient Egyptian civilization. In conclusion, the history of Egypt, mummies, and the mummification process is a fascinating topic that has intrigued people for centuries. The Egyptians developed a sophisticated culture that valued life after death, and the practice of mummification played a central role in this belief. Today, mummies continue to capture our imagination and provide a window into the rich history of ancient Egypt.